preview video. Today we're taking a look at another Week 4 matchup, doing plenty of Week 4 matchups this week in college football. It's Louisville headed on the road down to Doak Campbell Stadium to take on the Florida State Seminoles. This should be an interesting game, Ian Cameron, as we head into the ACC tilt. How you doing? Good to have you back for another week. You were 1-1 last week with your picks. Great call with the Houston Cougars. They were inside the number, which it was a little worrisome late, but they were able to get through the back door. You lose the total on Florida State and Virginia by 1 point. So overall, you capped those games the right way. How you doing, Ian Cameron?
Good, big man. Good to be back with you. Virginia, Florida State was a frustrating loss, but I knew what I was getting into with Virginia. Pretty good defensive team, and as fast as Florida State goes on offense, Virginia is pretty much the polar opposite. They slow it right down in terms of how they run things on offense. But 1-1, no harm, no foul. See what we can do this week.
Yep, sounds good. And as always, Ian will be with us for 2 videos. Make sure you check out the other one that we are about to record after this one. Let's get into it. 3:30 on Saturday. I get Florida State 6.5-point favorites. Total is 61.5 as Louisville comes to town. And what an interesting line this is, Ian. You look at the kind of the grand scheme of things, and we'd have to figure it's hard to believe that Florida State could be 1-3 after this week. They can't be 1-3, can they? Louisville comes to town with quarterback concerns. Jawan Pass is injured right now. It's a question of will he play or not. Could be the backup. Who knows? Florida State, though, as we know, this team can't defend. They gave up over 30 points again last week. That's now 3 straight games to start the season, Ian Cameron, where they have given up 30 or more points. Should have a better pace to this game as opposed to when they played Virginia. We all know Virginia goes very slow. They're not as slow as their basketball team, but they're slow. What do you like here, Ian Cameron? This is a game where you have 2 teams that really aren't going to be much of a factor in the ACC this year. What do you like here, and what are you getting involved with?
I think we've got a classic case here of 2 programs going in opposite directions right now. When you look at it with this Florida State team, this looks like a ship that may continue to sink as this season goes along. Now, you got to give them credit for a pretty solid effort last week on the road against a pretty good Virginia team. But still, problems plagued this team defensively. They couldn't get stops when they needed it. Now, the defense was better a little bit. They did bring in Jim Leavitt as this quote-unquote defensive analyst before the Virginia game. I think he might help them in the long run, but it's going to take time. I just don't think the talent's all that good on the defensive side of the football for Florida State. And it showed again last week. Game on the line could stop Bryce Perkins and the Cavaliers offense, who get the game-winning drive against them. And then the Florida State screw up at the end. I don't know how I can sit there on my couch last Saturday night watching that game unfold and know that you got to clock that football with 5 seconds left, knowing it's first down. The clock stops. You have time to get up to the line and spike the ball. Give yourself one chance. I know that, and Willie Taggart can't figure that out. That is hard to believe for me. Absolutely horrible job. Totally botched the end of that game, and another crushing loss for Florida State. And the only win they've had this year was by the skin of their teeth against Monroe in a game that their defense was a sieve once again. So bottom line is, big man, there's no way in hell I'm interested in laying any points with Florida State right now. This is a team that's not going in the right direction. Louisville, you mentioned it. Quarterback issues. Are we going to see Jawan Pass back? He sat out the Western Kentucky game last week due to injury. We're going to see Malik Cunningham, who I thought played pretty well, to be honest with you. Right now, I don't know if there's a huge gap between Pass and Cunningham, so I don't make a huge deal of, I like this bet more if Pass goes or if he doesn't go. For me, this is a play on Louisville plus the points. Now, I got 8.5 here. Jeff, it's gone down a bit. It bothers me a little bit that we're only getting 6.5, but I still endorse it fully. I mean, you look at Louisville, the bottom fell out for the Louisville Cardinals last year. It really did. When you have the kind of season they had, 2-10 straight up, 1-11 against the spread last year, Louisville. That's how bad things were. And they came into this season because of that result as lowly power rated as you could possibly be. Now, the question is, were they that bad from a talent standpoint, or was it a question of did they mail it in? Did they quit? I think a lot of it was they quit. They mailed it in on Bobby Petrino. They didn't have any sort of effort. You don't get blown out and be so non-competitive the way Louisville was late in the season last year unless you quit, unless you mentally check out. And I think that's what happened with Louisville. So as a result of that, they're being power rated, I think, coming into this season as that team that was not only bad, but sort of quit on the coach. So in comes Scott Satterfield. And boy, you talk about fundamental football. He's instilling fundamental football. He's brought the energy back. You look at Louisville's results, blowout wins against Eastern Kentucky and Western Kentucky the last 2 weeks, point spread covers, even against Notre Dame, big man in the opener. Hung tough with Notre Dame for at least 2.5 quarters before the Irish finally pulled away in that football game. And it was a wire-to-wire point spread cover for Louisville. Louisville opened 20.5 in that game. They got inside that number. There is positive signs being made by Satterfield. In terms, there's a huge coaching upgrade. I knew he was a very good hire for Louisville. And because things just completely fell apart, they quit everything, you're getting a bargain bin point spread residual value on Louisville to start the season. It's no surprise they're 3-0 against the spread to begin this season. We're going to ride the hot, fade the cold from a point spread perspective. Give me Louisville here, plus the points.
I actually really like this play, and this is a game that I had my eye on. I did not understand the line opener at 8.5. I think the odds makers just got this one wrong, and they quickly bet this one down to 6.5. What warrants Florida State being a 6.5 point favorite? Because they're at Doak Campbell Stadium. You talked about it. The move from Petrino to Satterfield is like going from bargain brand soda to fucking Coca-Cola. It's just not the same. And I'll tell you right now, Jawan Pass or Malik Cunningham, I think are going to do some damage against this bad Florida State defense. The only concern I have for Louisville, and there's just one, how much do they bog down and how long does it take before they start to tire out against an up-tempo offense? But I've talked about this in college football, Ian. Around these times, weeks 3, week 4, week 5, you start to see those chipping off points for teams like Louisville, a team that's not going to win the ACC this year, a team that's not going to go to a high-level bowl game, a team, though, that had a tough season last year and getting to a bowl game. If they want to get to a bowl game, I think they have to have this game. I really do. Because you look at going forward, you already have 2 wins. You get this one on Saturday. You have winnable games against Wake Forest. You get Boston College at home. These are important games that I think you have to have. I think they're in that game late in the season at Kentucky. I think they could play with Syracuse. This is a game you have to have if you're Louisville. And it's funny, and you say they had a good effort last week, Florida State, against Virginia. Tell me if 4 or 5 years ago that would ever come out of your mouth. This is a storied program. Now we're giving them fucking brownie points for a good effort and a losing effort at Virginia.
For Florida State, yeah, I hear you. I hear you on that. For Florida State, we're giving you a participation award for playing the Virginia Cavaliers. Good effort, even though you didn't win the game. And that's another thing. From a spot perspective, this is a dubious one for Florida State. That's a crushing loss. You're right there at the 2-yard line. You might have a chance to tie the game. And unfortunately, clock mismanagement cost you an opportunity to win that football game. It was a complete, it was like a stick handling in a phone booth, so to speak, with trying to get that playoff in the last couple seconds of that game for Florida State. And that could be a little bit of a hangover effect for them going into this game. Now, I do have some concerns about Louisville's defense. They're far from a finished product on that side of the ball. They're still capable of giving up points and yards, and the offense has been better for Florida State, certainly, than the defense. And, Blackman's been solid, Akers at running back. They've been able to move the ball. The total's gone up. I do want to mention that. I would lean over the total. I've been riding these Florida State games over the total. So at 61, I think I would consider looking at this game over the total. But I'm a little bit stronger on the Louisville side in this one. So that's what I'm going with. I think we've got a down-to-the-wire finish, and I would not be the least bit shocked if Scott Satterfield can bring the troops into Doak Campbell here and maybe come out of here with a win.
You got to wonder when Florida State starts to quit on Willie Taggart. He seems to be in over his head down at Florida State. Great stuff, Ian Cameron. Always look forward to doing videos with you. Always great, detailed information. Seems like the audience enjoys it as well. By the way, one more thing on Florida State. This is a very undisciplined group as well. You look at currently.
Yes, good on you for bringing that up. I forgot to bring that up. Penalties, like stupid penalties. Bonehead penalties last week.
Bad penalties. This team is 119 out of 130 in penalty yards per game, over 78 penalty yards per game. and 22 total penalties. This is a team that just I don't think is coached very good right now. I'd really like to spot. Good call, Ian. Going with Louisville plus 6.5. Did bet at 8.5, but he at this point has to take 6.5. But keep in mind the sharp that Ian Cameron is got some CLV and grabbed 8.5 on this game. Either way, I think Louisville can go in and win this game. It's going to be a good one down at Doak Campbell. Ian Cameron, good stuff as always. We'll talk to you on the other video. As always, if you're new around here, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any sports betting content. Make sure you like and comment as well. Let me know what you're on in the comment box. Thanks, Ian. We'll see you on the other video.
Thanks, Jeff.